You're now tuned in to By the Dipshits exclusive content. This is a three-part interview with Jarred Weisfeld O.D.B, last manager. Before we jump into the interview, By the Dipshits want to give a special thanks to our sponsors. What is Galaxy Wells? Galaxy is a metaphor which represents infinite space. Their goal is to dominate the infinite space in the digital publishing universe. Wells are the major corporation that possess endless amounts of content. What do? They turn content into currency in the digital space, the home of the NFTs. You want to keep your ownership and intellectual property? Then stop what you're doing and go to galaxywells.com. Now I'm back to By the Dipshits. This is another episode of By the Dipshits. It's where the dip creates the opportunity. I'm Mills.
I'm D. Lamaj.
I'm JC.
Today's episode, he was rap superstar, legend, Old Dirty Bastard, aka Dirt McGirt, last manager, Jarred Weisfeld. Yeah, I'm still trying to get right a 23-year-old who never managed anyone, have all the knowledge of understand how to be able to negotiate, certain terms and, those things, like what inspire you and how you was able to maneuver for the first time managing, an artist like that and at that caliber, to be able to understand and know that this is what was needed in order for, you guys, for it to be fair, or you guys to even just to be happy?
Because there's nobody more street smart than my father. And when my dad said to me, I'm going to drop you off in Brooklyn for the weekend so you can learn some street smarts, and like your wise ass mouth over there will get you killed. I took that to heart, and I started seeing all of the maneuvers that he was making and see like how he would do business. And I saw how, the way that he acted and interacted with people, right? He interacted with people a lot differently than I did, right? He had a much different approach. Like his approach was like my dad is genuinely the nicest guy on the planet, but he's also the most honest guy on the planet. Me, I'm the same way. As far as like, I'm the most honest person on the planet. We just have different ways about going about it. My way is basically, this is the way we're doing it. Like, I'm not cutting you a check. You're not getting a cent from me. Like, this is how we're going to do it. Right. Period. If you don't like that deal, that's fine. We'll see you in court. And I was like, we'll win. And this is why we'll win, because of these three things. Right. And they knew we had a much better case than they did. And also, if Dirty went to court and Dirty won, what would the other members think about that? Right. The other members would have court cases too. So it was just kind of like, this is the way we did it. And, I used to just study my father and just see like how he was always 5 steps ahead of everybody else. I try to be 10 steps ahead of everybody else. My dad was in the fashion industry. That was a tough industry, but the music industry, man, I don't know how people could survive in that industry. Everybody's out there to steal from you. Never seen anything like it. So I just try to be 10 steps ahead of everybody else. And was that easy? No. Did I get threatened a lot? Yeah. Did I think at 23 years old I was going to have a full-time bodyguard? Hell no, right? But I knew that it was the right thing to do. Right. I wasn't going to be an A&R guy at a record label that wanted to manage somebody so the record label could walk all over the artist and do what, the artist would do whatever it was at that record. I mean, notice Puffy started as A&R, right? Well, he started off as an intern, right? And then
intern, yeah.
Yeah. And then
intern to A&R.
To A&R, and then he did his own thing. I didn't intern anywhere, right? Like, I didn't intern anywhere. I did when I was much younger, when I was 18, 19 years old. I interned for Larry Rudolph and Stephen Beer, who at the time were Britney Spears' manager and lawyer. I interned for them.
Oh, that was my lawyer, Larry Rudolph.
Yeah. So I used to listen to demo tapes for Larry when I was his intern. And then obviously now, he's got Aerosmith. So I followed his career as well. I mean, you gotta, the the thing about me that's different is like, I know people like aren't going to take a 23-year-old seriously. They're not going to take a 24. They're not going to take an 18-year-old seriously, right? So, and I was always good about trying to get in touch with people that I wanted to learn from, right? So like I told you, I was kind of like that kid that liked pop music growing up. My favorite show growing up was Saved by the Bell. So I'd watch Saved by the Bell. I'd watch Hang Time. I'd watch, what was it? City Guys, right? I'd watch like the entire Saturday morning lineup. And what did the Saturday morning lineup always have? You always saw executive producer Peter Engel, right? Like he executive produced every show on Saturday morning on NBC. So that's the kind of TV I wanted to do. I didn't want to do shows like On Parole with O.D.B. I wanted to do scripted television for, like he did for like Saturday mornings, right? So I followed his career very closely. And
was that one Saturday morning?
Yeah, it was one Saturday. All those shows were on like back to back to back. And so I emailed, I found his email address and I put in the subject line, Steven Spielberg, because I know if somebody gets an email and says Steven Spielberg on it, you're definitely opening up that email, right? So he opens up that email and I said, I had to get my foot in the door. And then I told him how I admired his career. And then, he said, next time he emailed me back. He goes, thank you so much for the note. Next time you're in LA, please come by. I'd like to meet with you. So I made a trip out to LA and I met with him and I learned, and, I was able to study his mind, and he didn't have any shows going on at the time, but, that was like, that's how hungry I was. I said I was Steven Spielberg for crying out loud. But I wasn't, and that's what got my foot in the door, right? So I was just hungry, and I knew.
Driven, man. That's driven, determination to win.
You got to be driven.
Yeah, determination to win.
Yeah, so.
Look where your parents dropped you off at, man. Brooklyn, super resilience, man.
Oh, they didn't drop me off in Brooklyn. They threatened to.
Oh, they threatened to.
Oh, they never dropped me off in Brooklyn. They threatened to.
Oh, wow.
You got to understand, my dad grew up in Coney Island, in the projects of Coney Island. So growing up, I'm sure your parents taught you the same thing as well. Everybody's parents back then told you that you can't do it anymore. But like my dad will always say to me, he goes, listen, he goes, if somebody throws the first punch, pushes you, or is a bully, you knock them the fuck out.
Right.
I was like, what? He was like, if somebody, he goes, never started, but you better finish. He's like, I don't care if you come home and you get the ever-loving crap kicked out of you. He's like, that kid that you just hit back will never mess with you again. He's like, I promise you. And he goes, if you get suspended from school for fighting back, he goes, I promise you, I will buy you a present of your choosing, right? So there was a kid in 6th grade. Remember I told you my sister beat this kid up?
Yeah.
So there was a kid in was it 5th grade, right? That the same kid, he wouldn't leave me alone. He was pushing me every day. He was doing everything. So finally I'm like, dude, just stop. I'm not in the mood for this. He did it. I was like, stop it. He did it again. I was like, this kid's like 3 times my size. So I was like, okay, what do I do? So I was like, dude, one more time and that's it. So he does it one more time. I take his jacket, I put it over his head, and I just beat the piss out of him.
Favorite move, right? Man. Favorite
what?
Move. That was my favorite move as a teenager. Pull your coat over your head so you can't see.
Right. And then I get called down to the dean's office and they say, we're gonna have to suspend you. I was like, I understand, I get it. And then, they call my parents up. My dad comes to school and says to the dean, let me ask you a question. Dean was like, well, who threw the first punch? He goes, well, the other kid did. So my dad goes, so why am I here? And he's like, what are you talking about? He's like, this kid's a bully, man. He's been bullying everybody the entire year. My son defends himself and he's getting suspended. And the dean was like, yeah, no, we're not going to suspend him anymore. But then I look at my dad, I'm like, I'm still getting that gift though, right? And he was like, yeah, of course. So but yeah, no, that was the moment I realized, like, in order to get respect in life, you got to push back a little bit, right? And from then on in, the guy he never messed with me again. Like, he tried to be my friend. So like understanding that, so fighting back against these record label executives like Damon Dash and all these other record executives, fighting back was like something that my father had taught me. Like, don't bully me, because I'm going to get you back just as bad as you got me. And that's the mentality that I had, was kind of like, okay, you're going to say this, no problem, I'm going to get you this way. Right. Damon Dash and I hadn't spoken probably for 5 months before Dirty's death.
How was it working with him?
It was not working with him. So we get to the funeral, right? And literally the first time I had spoken to Damon Dash in 5 or 6 months, he looks at me 5 feet from Dirty's body and says, "We have some business to discuss." And I just like look at him. I don't say a word to him. I mumbled under my breath that he should go F himself, right? But I know somebody that was with me said, "This is not the time nor the place." And then I went down and I sat, and, you know, I was listening, and I doubt he stayed at the funeral. I mean, he's a phony. So, I mean, maybe he did. I have no idea, but he's never met a camera he didn't like. So if there were cameras there, I'm sure he was there.
So wait, so let me ask you though, so how did the whole Rocafella deal come about then? Exclusive content by the dipshits. Part 2, whoa. Now go check out part 3, spicy. Exclusive content by the dipshits.